Awesome. Welcome everyone to our webinar, The Future of Finance and How AI is Reshaping Treasury, Cash, and Accounting. I'm really excited. I think we have an expert panel here to join us to really dive into this topic. My name is Matt Harlan. I've spent the majority of my career deep diving into the trenches of all things Treasury and Finance. And let's just be honest, the pain feels different right now. Between forecasting volatility, manual close process, the never-ending fire drills, and the tight iteration cycle, it's no wonder sometimes that us as finance people can feel stuck and mainly being in reactive mode throughout our processes and just trying to get by. But let's be real, AI is now on the scene and it's really helping to enable how teams do things differently, reshaping processes, reshaping time, reshaping how work and resources are allocated, but it's not magic and it's not a silver bullet. So after all the excitement, we're still left asking the question, how do we actually make this real? And how do we move from hype to habit? That's why today is all about cutting through the noise and to talk honestly about the friction that really lives within the process, what implementation actually takes, and how finance teams can lead the way through a moment of massive change. So we're really excited. We have a lot of topics lined up that we're going to talk about today. We're going to deep dive into what's slowing finance teams down today. We're also going to deep dive into AI in action, talking about real wins from the field. We're going to talk about how to get buy-in for AI at your company. As teams are going through iteration, they're trying to figure out what their AI strategy is. And then we're going to talk about what's next, the AI-powered finance team, how to really change your team to be future-focused and future-proofed. Just as a reminder, we're going to have Q&A, but you can submit Q&A iteratively throughout the conversation. You don't need to wait. So if something comes up, please drop your question in the chat, and we'll make sure to get into it towards the end of our discussion. I'd like to pass it off to our first panelist, Daniel Kalish from Nilus. Daniel, would you mind introducing yourself?
Of course. Pleasure to be here and kind of sharing with a broad audience about such an exciting topic. I'm Daniel, the CEO and co-founder of Nilus. You can think about Nilus as a brain for cash for large companies who are struggling with trying to figure out how much cash they have, control monitoring across all the different banks, payment processors. So our agentic AI platform allows you guys to very quickly get control of this, analyze transactions with tagging, forecast out transactions, and create kind of a very accurate view on kind of what's coming, but also optimize for the future with the best next action that you can kind of go and perform to optimize your liquidity and get to the free cash flow levels that you're trying to achieve at the end of the quarter or month. So we're Nilus, the new brain for cash, and I'm happy to be here and share more about what AI means, why is it so interesting, and I'll pass it on to Nicolas.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. Really excited to be here because I think we have also a lot of treasurers that wanted to hear about how AI can help treasurers, but also accountants, also financial analysts. Myself, I am a finance guy. I worked 15 years in finance for PwC and after on the corporate side. But since 2 years, I am on a mission to train AI to finance people, so to help finance professionals become AI champions. And I've trained more than 5,000 people. And also I'm lucky every day I can share my insight with more than 1 million people on socials and especially on LinkedIn.
Great. Awesome. Thank you, Nicolas. One thing, just to remind everyone, the recording will be available. The team is going to send it out tomorrow. So no need if you missed something. We'll make sure to have the content available for you tomorrow. Before we get started, we're going to put a poll up within the chat. And essentially, we want to hear from you about challenges that each of you are facing today. So go ahead and answer that poll, and then we'll move forward. Great. So our first deep dive is what is slowing us down and how do we fix it? AI has been here for some time, but let's be candid, not every finance team has adopted an AI strategy. And it's not just technology. It's about trust. It's about integration. How do we wrap our hands around all the chaos that data sometimes presents to us? It's the fact of Treasury that, we're stretched thin. We're thinly resourced. when it comes to actually working in processes, sometimes the iteration cycles are so tight. And you add on top of that, we're dealing with legacy systems, fragmented data sources with Excel. This is a life that I've lived, trying to figure out where your cash is, trying to understand where my hazards are throughout my process, and then all on top of trying to figure out what's going to happen in the future in terms of forecasts. So let's talk about that gap between potential and process and what's really going on and why teams haven't yet adopted this technology. The first question actually is for Daniel. Daniel, I think this is fitting for you. You've talked to hundreds of prospects, I believe, in your line of work and working with dozens of customers. You've heard probably every story and every challenge from a private to a public company of the things that they face with cash. What are some of the challenges that you hear repeatedly at this time, and how do you think finance teams today are handling those challenges?
Yeah, I think this is a great segue to kind of help us guide the conversation towards kind of AI and its applications with finance today, and specifically with Treasury. I think that with any AI question, you guys need to start with kind of what is the pain point I'm trying to solve for. For the past 3 years, kind of since we found the company, and today we work with kind of hundreds of companies, we've been able to continuously hear about the day-to-day challenges that teams are facing with, starting from cash positions. Today, teams are struggling with trying to get my bank data, trying to get my cash flow reporting to a line that can be useful and can work properly. So gathering all the data, this is one key challenge in consolidating for reporting. Then trying to tag my transactions. Most of the teams are running this manually, whether it's on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, so I can report on my cash flow and understand dynamics around that, and then adjust my forecasts. These are things that teams are struggling a lot with, and spending a ton of time. Mainly, this manual and delayed kind of work is also causing, you can't really get it on a daily basis. The third thing is cash flow forecasting. What we see in most cases is that forecasting is done top down. It's not accurate enough. You're pretty far away from where you kind of reported to the board. This doesn't allow you also to optimize for your liquidity. It doesn't allow you to use your cash wisely, to allocate for investment or yield-bearing accounts, to reduce your revolver usage, to reduce FX costs. All of those items are things that we struggle in the day-to-day. The other things are cash accounting. How can I go and reconcile my cash and make sure that my books are in order? And lastly, payments are obviously also kind of big item in the day-to-day workflows of treasurers. So I think that before we go and speak about AI, let's understand again kind of those challenges. We have a lot of different customers who have faced with that. So whether it's Taboola, which is a public company in the ad space, over 22 entities and hundreds of accounts, they were struggling with this manually before they started to use Nilus, or 365 that were struggling with their cash flow forecasts, trying to marry data from all different places. And we'll kind of share more of those nuances and examples during this webinar. So I'll pause here. Maybe Matt, from your practitioner or kind of running for many years for Toast and other companies, you want to share more? But
yeah, Daniel, I think this one really strikes a chord with me because this is something I've lived. There's been countless times where, let's say I'm working through a cash flow report and it's for the board, and it's the night of, we're getting slides ready, and all of a sudden the report doesn't load because it's in Excel. Or there's been times where we're trying to reconcile something, a transaction or a cash account, and we're spending hours trying to work through an old tool that is not able to move quickly throughout our workflow. And so this is something that unfortunately keeps Treasury teams stuck in the past. It keeps us kind of going around the same mountain of manual work without having real impact. And so, no, I appreciate you starting with some of the workflows that we get stuck in, because I do think this is the starting place. I do think this is a way to make what we talk about when we mean AI automation and AI tooling really practical and easy to understand for the practitioner. So I appreciate you highlighting those. I want to also hear from Nicolas and get your perspective. I know Daniel highlighted a lot of the key challenges that finance teams are facing today. But Nicolas, based on your experience, what do you think is holding teams back from using AI, and where should they start? What should be the focus?
Yeah, thank you, Matthew. So the issue first is that finance people don't think they can use AI for their tasks. They really think that is a black box, and maybe marketing is good at it, maybe IT is good at it, but they don't really think about what are the use case besides writing emails.
Right.
Because we are a lot about figures, and especially at the beginning of generative AI and figures didn't work together. But I want to show you 3 examples, really short, to change your mind for everybody watching us today. So the first example is something I did thinking about treasurers. And here, look on the right side, is an example. If you're a treasurer and you want to identify KPIs that you should look at for your company, you can go and use this assistant, kind of a sparring partner, and you can generate a lot of KPIs with the formulas, with the pros and cons to help you enhance your knowledge, but also implement something in your work. And you can use that for anything about ideas generation, correcting text, creating checklist, like if you have like a month-end checklist, translating text, doing some research also on accounting standards. So this is here already for finance, quite useful. Then one of my favorite way is to use it for Excel. And here I remember when I had the finance team myself, one of the topic we had was to create an edge bucket list of our overdues. And I was waiting a full afternoon to get the answer. And I think now if I will give that to my accounting team that I had a few years ago and just say, okay, ask Copilot or ChatGPT how to create an edge bucket list in Excel. And then they will just have to ask the question. And then they will get from Copilot really guidelines, like a step-by-step, plus all of the formulas they can use. So it's straight away you can apply this, and on top, you can save a lot of time. And the last thing I wanted to share, I just did before with ChatGPT, just a test to show you that you can also create charts that for treasurer are quite, I would say, like it could take long to do.
Yeah,
and you can,
definitely.
Yeah, like you know yourself, Matthew, like this type of charts.
I could have used this. Yeah.
So this is something you can do. So myself, and we are going to talk about it, I can upload data because I have ChatGPT Teams, which is under SOC 2 standards. But yeah, just to show you, this is done by the LLM using Python to create those charts. So it's not just in a black box. You can behind see how it was computed. And this is really a time saver, and it can help a lot of finance professionals.
Totally. No, that's great. I love how we even started this conversation by starting with the practical workflows, because let's be honest, AI is only as good as the data that you feed it. And so having kind of connected systems and some of what Daniel was talking about is a direct feed into us being able to leverage what's possible in terms of how we could use AI and move quickly through workflows. I want to bring the conversation down a bit, and let's talk about AI in action. Let's talk about real wins from the field. You know, I think those are some really good examples, Nikolai. But AI is here, and finance teams we know have been slow to embrace AI, but there's huge gains that they could have, especially on the efficiency side. When we think about unlocking liquidity opportunities, right? Finding ideal cash, working capital optimizations, understanding in a deeper way gaps across your workflow. But even things like keeping track of all the board policies. What I like to tell people sometimes is Treasury is an anxiety kind of written job where you have to understand where cash is, you have to do this, you have to do that. And there's so many different things in a tight bookend of time that's kind of controlling your day. And so I think Treasury teams are definitely primed to use AI in a real way. Maybe back to you, Nicolas, question is, can you walk us through the key stages of how AI is evolving within finance? Maybe highlight for our audience some real world examples that are currently delivering that true efficiency for teams.
Sure. So here I would like to show you that with also some examples. And we have to understand that where we come, the world where right now we are using, there is a lot of automations everywhere. And for a lot of problems we have, automations are really good because they always work one way, they are stable, they are rule-based. So basically an automation is if, then that. But automations also takes a long time to code and to parameter if you have never done it or if you are not a coder. Now, since ChatGPT arrived, since we have the LLMs, we have more and more AI workflow, meaning that we are using AI in a part of this automation. Because AI has more, like especially generative AI, can understand the wording, can understand the nuance, can categorize something that before only humans could do.
Yeah.
And then what we'll see coming is the arrivals of AI agents, which now like is really hard to say like the limit between AI workflow and AI agents, because if you really are strict with the rule and the definition, AI agents are autonomous. And how do you define the autonomy when the human or the system still has to be behind? That's the question. But let me show you for automation how you, in finance, you can already start today and save a lot of time by getting AI to help you with your automations. So I take an example where you received a lot of credit card statements in a Google Sheet. So here we see this Google Sheet. We have 20, 30 credit card statements from all of the team. And the data just is a mess. So what you want is to go either in ChatGPT, Copilot, or Gemini, and you are going to explain how your data looks like, and then ask help on your steps that you are doing everything manually until now. So you want help to consolidate, you want help to only keep the right columns, you want to remove some lines, etc., etc. So you know what you do every month on this, but this time you don't want to do it yourself. You want AI to help you do this work inside your Google Sheet. So what here I've asked is to write a script which will exactly do the steps that I described with my own words. So that's the big advantage right now is I never coded, but I know what I want. So I just say what I want, and then I ask, how can I use it? And once that I have the instructions on how to use it, then I will use the code. And here, for all of you, it's actually quite easy to use this in Google Sheet or in Office script. Like here, I take the code, I go in the app script, and I just paste my code, and I will save and run it. I just name it now, and I will run the code, and let's see what happens when I run the code. So when I run the code, then I go back to my Google Sheet, and now what I will have done manually, so meaning the consolidation of all of the tabs and the data cleaning and only keeping the important columns, now Google Script does it automatically. And every month I can come back and let the script run because I have it once and it works, and AI helped me do that. So that's basically how you can create automations with AI.
Great. Yeah, I love the thought process of kind of thinking more deeply on how to solve some of the manual work issues. And I think this is a really good segue because I know, Daniel, you spent a lot of your time as a founder deeply invested into building agentic platforms and AI to help finance people. And what I'd love to hear from you is, how is AI actually helping these teams? Can you share some real examples of how these tools are addressing the gaps of visibility, the manual work, decision-making bottlenecks that often exist within our space as treasurers? Would love to hear from you how Nilus is helping to solve some of that.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll show in a minute like a few real examples from the platform on how AI is actually used and kind of what it actually solves. But I think that it's interesting because when you think about it, AI actually allows you to you can use like open tools like ChatGPT and run analysis on your existing Excel. But that would always be structured in a way that is not dynamic enough, right? You get an Excel file, you run it, you ask questions, you run your graphs. I think what we're building at Nilus and how we serve customers and how other kind of AI native finance software are probably also doing is trying to bring all the data in a streamlined way, clean the data for you, and run consistent workflows that are driven by AI for the benefit of automation, optimization, and insight creation. So I think that's like just kind of following up on Nicola and some of those amazing things that could completely streamline the way people work today. They're great, but I think that in order to fully unlock the potential, you need to have like a consistent platform that brings the data, clean it up, optimize, tag it, and help you take the right decisions on time. Just moving here to this slide, when we think about AI or kind of this evolution, we also have different items with kind of AI. We have machine learning, which is understanding kind of patterns and trying to create a predictable kind of sequence out of this. We have AI automations, which can help us do tasks, and we have generative AI, which we can learn new stuff or create a new context out of our data. Where Nilus helps with those items is dramatically with transaction mapping, where automatically, instead of you guys trying to categorize transactions, Nilus would bring the data, and thanks for the video, brings the data, and if you can run it again from the start, Nilus would bring all your transaction data. Once AI is set, Nilus would automatically extract the counterparty of the transaction like we see here. So from the description, there would be an extraction of counterparty. And then the next thing that would be done is with our AI, Nilus would determine what is the best cash category to set up the transaction. So this entire very manual workflow of trying to understand how to tag my transactions is actually completely reduced by using Nilus. And it's smart. It's not just like one rule that is set up and then it doesn't get new items. It's okay. I think that this is one item that I wanted to kind of share with you. And it saves a ton of time. You guys know that how much time it takes to clean data and tag it correctly so you can run your cash flow reporting and other stuff. This is a big item of how AI is being used in a system. There's also ways to use it outside of a system, but those ways would be, I think, better for one-off stuff and not a consistent reporting what you need to continuously report to your board on a daily basis and be very strong on your numbers. Maybe another
Someone's full-time job. Yeah, I said this is someone's full-time job, categorizing transactions.
Not a full time, but I would say like a lot of hours in the day are kind of spent around kind of getting data from the banks, your PSPs, and trying to make sense out of those data points. So forecasting is probably one of the kind of toughest, more challenging workflows as treasurers or whoever runs cash for the business. It's a very hard workflow because the data structure is not consistent. It's very hard sometimes to get the data from the ERP. There's different workflows of getting data from your different regional controllers. So a lot of data gathering, and then when you have data, it's mostly done top down, and you don't necessarily have a lot of learnings from the past. What we've created here in Nilus, and we'll show it to you in a second, is your ability to learn from historical patterns with ML and create a pattern for the future, but also learn from adjacent data points like your ERP on how my collection is actually expected to trend at the end of the quarter, and how my payment behavior of each specific customer or vendor are trending. So, we know that everyone is, we have net terms, but they're not necessarily consistent with reality. And Nilus would actually catch this and update your forecast so you can get to your free cash flow levels at the end of the month, but also start to optimize your liquidity across all your entities and accounts. So if let's maybe play this video quickly. But here, what's done is that Nilus would set up regression model in the AI setting. And here you see that I can click here on Nilus AI. Nilus would kind of scan the historical patterns and would create a stream for my forecasted category around collection. The next thing that would be done is Nilus would, if I want to, maybe let's stop it for a second. If I want to go and fine tune it, and let's take it backwards for a slight minute. If I want to go and adjust my forecast and go more granular and add those ERP transactions, Nilus allows me to go and add in my AI settings the ability to bring the data from the ERP and basically create a bottom-up for the specific cell and adjust it in a way that would make my forecast more accurate. So this is the power of AI. You can start to triangulate data in a very easy way that makes sense. And let's maybe show this kind of in the video. Let's show this item. So here's the expected transactions from my ERP. Nilus I would click on expected transaction date, and then I would see that all my transactions are getting my true payment behavior, and my forecast was adjusted. You can see it here clearly, but the number was kind of reduced from a different kind of forecasted number to this one. Let's move into the last one, which is liquidity optimization. And I'm sorry, guys, we'll share a better resolution with you kind of later. But the next one would be a video around how Nilus actually helps you with liquidity optimization. So maybe before we tap on that, what we're showing here is at the end of the day when we wake up or when we kind of end up with our continuous data gathering, we're trying to do what's best for the company, and we're trying to optimize liquidity. We're trying to move more funds to investment-bearing account. We're trying to reduce my FX costs. We're trying to reduce my revolver, and we want to make sure that we have enough funding for the business. And so these are the more strategic items. And what Nilus does with Gen AI is basically scanning your entire cash forecast and historical cash flow needs, and helps you determine and set up a policy. So this is cash policy is actually a term that I'm not sure that a lot of you guys you know what is your cash policy, but Nilus would with Gen AI create a cash policy for you, and then proactively make sure that you enforce this policy and automatically move funds between accounts, entities, banks, to make sure that this happens. And I see that Matt went off mute. Matt, do you want to share anything else?
Yeah, no, I think when I think about cash policy, I do think it's something that is super helpful because it does things like, what is the amount of balance that I should have in a certain account? What is the right amount of FX? What is the right amount of counterparty exposure? And I think these are all the things that treasurers think about in the day-to-day, but we don't actually have enough time to read the data, to understand the historicals, to actually set a guideline for what that is. And so I think it's helpful that even tools like this and AI is actually helping to help treasury teams not only be smarter, but help them be a little bit more stringent in how they manage their cash, which cash management can seem somewhat amorphous at times. And when we think about traditional TMS, it kind of just does a process. But I love how AI is now actually being deployed to help us think more strategically about our workflows so we can be better treasurers. I think that's what everyone wants to do at the end of the day. We want to be better at our job.
And let's maybe start this video quickly just to show. So this is my forecast. What I can do is I can go to Insight. The AI would run an analysis on the back end and would set up thresholds for my accounts, as we can see here. What would happen next is with these thresholds, which are dynamic with my forecasts, I will get immediate insights on how to use my funds. And we recognize an $18 million of ideal cash that is not in use. Maybe we can allocate it into an investment-bearing account with an intercompany movement. So just these are just like high-level items of how Nilus utilizes AI to make your life dramatically better. I'll pause here and bring it back to Matt.
No, that's great. I appreciate you sharing that, Daniel. One thing I want to just remind everyone, there's a lot of information I understand that's being thrown at you today. Some of us are kind of having these aha moments when it comes to thinking about AI in our workflows from some of the things that Nicolas showed or that Daniel showed. What I would encourage you to do is don't wait to type your question. Please submit it within the chat so we can make sure it's addressed on the call. We have a star-studded team here today, so it would be a shame not to get those questions answered. It's poll time, so it's time for the poll. So let us know your concerns about implementing AI for your team. We'll give everyone 30 seconds to answer this question, and then we'll move on. So let's get the poll loaded, please. Okay, great. We're going to move on to our next section, which is how to get buy-in from AI. If you ever have had to sell a system internally, you understand how difficult buy-in is. You have to do a business case. You have to go through every nook and cranny of the technology that you're implementing and get all parties and stakeholders aligned. I think one thing that comes to mind when we think about AI is also data integrity, understanding where the data is coming from, understanding who has access to the data. And you know, when we think about adoption of AI, I think a lot of teams, especially in finance, it really boils down to, can I actually trust the platform? Do I actually have trust in what it's doing? And do I understand it at a nascent enough level that I feel comfortable using it? So my question is for you, Nikolai. Finance teams are often very cautious when it comes to change. We're slow-moving ships, as some might say. And from concerns from ROI to data to privacy, or simply just being comfortable with the way things have been done so far, how do you overcome this resistance? How do we build trust internally, both from a leadership perspective, but also bottoms up from the team when we're advocating for AI-driven solutions?
Yeah, the question is really important to address because it's interesting. We start to have more and more the people that have AI and the people that don't.
Totally.
And actually, we have more and more companies allowing their employees having AI tools. And for those who are not in this bucket, they need to start to wake up or to shake up their management if they don't have like the power to decide. Because like, let me just show you like something I prepared. Like last year, Deloitte did a poll, and from the CFOs interviewed, they say that, so half of them, 48%, say that the adoption of generative AI is a risk. meaning that if their team doesn't adopt it, if finance doesn't adopt it, they see it as one of the biggest risks. And so if this fear stops everybody, you are going really to miss out on a lot of opportunities. I shared you examples before, but today the first low-hanging fruit is all of this small manual work, which you should not be doing anymore. You should really work on improving your processes. And with tools like generative AI or even machine learning, you should really start transferring some of these tasks to AI. Like we saw with categorization of data, but also just helping you write faster, helping you with better ideas. And if you have really a use case, get an AI tool, like an AI finance tool, which is really good at this use case. And if people are interested, I have a market map of more than 100 tools specialized for finance in AI.
And Nicola, can I pause you for a second? I think that just because this is close to my heart, I think that one of the best ways to start adding AI to your day-to-day is just using GPT for your day-to-day tasks. We're in touch with the lady who leads fintech for OpenAI. And when we're speaking on an ongoing basis, or like 2 years ago when they just started on how Nilus can actually leverage their products, the one thing she told me is let's first make sure that every single employee works with AI for their day-to-day. Whether it's finance or your email or your deck, just do that. That would be the first step towards understanding the capabilities. And I'm sorry, but I think that this is such a good advice, and it's within your hands, right? You can just start
Exactly.
leveraging it for your stuff.
And that's when we talk about AI roadmap, I always advise to CFOs and finance managers, start by giving a LLM chatbot to your
Right.
teams. And then the question is, which one?
Right.
All of them are almost now really equivalent in terms of performance. So what you need is to choose the one that is the best for already all of the systems you have around you. So if you are a Microsoft company with all of your data in Microsoft, with Excel, with Outlook, then use Copilot, because Copilot can have access to Outlook. So when you ask a question, the answer is better because it knows about your meeting of last week, where maybe in this meeting something was decided and you need to use it to answer. If you are a Google company, like now you have Gemini everywhere, also in Google Sheet, it can draft your answers directly in Gmail. So you should use also Gemini. And I think the question is coming, and I have a slide on this, on data privacy. I'm going to address that after. The second part as well is really that a lot of people now, they know that it exists, that AI is there. And if you don't give to them an AI tool, they are going to leave. They are going to go to other companies. Absolutely. They are going to be frustrated. Yeah. So you need really also to enable your team and also attract young people. And the last one, actually, there is already more than 50% of the companies, 58% actually. That was from a Gartner study. 58% of the companies are already using AI in finance.
Interesting.
So then in which bucket do you want to be? Do you want to be in the 58% that are using it, or the one that are not using it? And then your competitors are going to either be cheaper or be faster than you, or even both. So that's really important. And for this, like I made like a mini crawl, walk, run, but start, like we said with Daniel, like start having an LLM chatbot and start with the easy use case that I showed you at the beginning of this presentation. Then once you have this, you can start integrating AI in your workflows. And then you can start really like with scaling, having AI finance tools, having maybe your forecasting done with AI. And this is a step-by-step approach, but start really now having an LLM chatbot. And on the data security, because the question is always there and always coming. It's not a new topic. 15 years ago, when you think about it, people were afraid to leave their financial data out of their desktop, out of their servers that was locally installed. Now nobody think about it anymore that an email sent to the CFO with all of the financial information just before the announcement to shareholders is just shared on the cloud. No, it's not a problem. And those tools here are the same ones behind the LLM chatbot. And Microsoft, OpenAI is also behind with, as Microsoft behind. And this fear also needs to be transformed into action. So if you have fear about data privacy, then just type Microsoft Copilot data privacy, OpenAI enterprise data security. Just type this, you will arrive directly to the page where they talk about it. And I think everybody here, you went to school, you can read that Microsoft Copilot follows the same security standards than Microsoft Office product. So Microsoft 365 Office product. And here OpenAI says clearly ChatGPT team plan, enterprise plan follows SOC 2 controls standards, and also for the European, the GDPR. And we know a lot of companies that already made the move. So of course, you need to assess for your company if those standards are the right ones for you, but act on it. Just don't stop because of the fear.
Yeah, totally. I love how we even kind of segued a little bit talking about AI literacy as a pathway to AI adoption. And it's right. If you don't use the tool, you can't expect to use the tool. And so I love the encouragement on teams to kind of start small, start with something that's tolerable, that's palatable with a small task before you think about more advanced tasks as a means to getting comfortable and building trust, even internally, with yourself on how to use the tool. And compliance is big. We all hear it every single day. I think whenever there's something new, it becomes the first thing that comes to the forefront of conversation, which kind of leads me to my next question for Daniel. Daniel, I know you run up against prospects all the time that maybe get to the point to where now they're ready to deploy an AI tool. Now they're ready for a Nilus to be able to deploy it internally. But there may be some, conversation or some fear around exposing confidential financial data to a third-party system like Nilus. How do companies protect against that risk? And what's your strategy to help people feel comfortable that this is the right move for them and that their data is actually protected?
Yeah, so first of all, let's start with, you want to make sure that whoever you work with has the right standards and kind of privacy alignment, and that's SOC 1, SOC 2, GDPR, and any other kind of item that your company may require. But the second thing is kind of strict data anonymization. You want to have enterprise-grade AI usage. You want to make sure that the data is anonymized and it doesn't go beyond your instance. That could be whether you use Copilot, ChatGPT for your org. Let's say you use your personal kind of GPT for your day-to-day, that would probably expose your data outside of the org. So it's pretty important to make sure that let's say you're just using OpenAI, that you're using a structured enterprise-ready account. It's really, really important. Obviously, for us, a company like Nilus, that is what we do. We make sure that the data is anonymized, it's encrypted, it's structured. You can opt in and opt out from using AI for specific items. And there's a secure infrastructure that doesn't allow the data to stream between items. And I'm sure that your IT team, your procurement team, already knows how to handle AI stuff. So, because we're seeing it across the board, don't worry about the security of AI. Make sure that the company you work with is working with public companies, is working with the right security standards, and let your legal team, let your procurement team, let your IT team deal with the heavy questions on how data is used. We see this across the board. We always get to that point, and those teams are equipped with the right questions on what to ask. That's actually their job. But I do think it's really important that in your day-to-day usage with OpenAI, just make sure that you're using your company account and not your personal account.
Daniel, are you seeing a softening of hearts from legal and procurement teams around even the way they approach their question set with you on AI usage? Do you feel like there's more understanding being
Oh,
developed?
for sure. They are well, they're well equipped with all the right questions and they know how to deal with that. It's not new to them anymore, so completely, yeah.
Great. Awesome. So, we talked a lot about where AI is today and it's evolving. I think every time I wake up and I check, there's an update on Gronk or DeepSeek or something, there's always something new within the space. I want to talk about what's next. I know this is only the beginning for finance tools and agentic AI platforms. So, Daniel, my question is to you. AI is already driving real impact, as we can see. You showed us earlier. But what is truly next for these finance and treasury teams? How do you see it evolving?
Yeah.
And what can we expect from Nilus's roadmap to unlock even more value in the future?
Yeah, so I just want to say we see all the questions and I can't wait to kind of answer very quickly. So we'll make it very short. What you would expect to see from any software is really more and more chat-like experience and very easy way of using the platform. You would see not only insights and analysis, but actually moving things to action. So taking one data that was analyzed, moving it into a new table structure that was created, and then executing with an agent, kind of your last mile. So that's what you will continuously see with the evolution of AI. I'm excited for the future and what Nilus will actually bring for you with those items. Yeah.
Exciting. And maybe a 2-minute quick fire answer from Nikolai. Within the world of finance, what do you see next in terms of the next wave of AI innovation across industry? What is still largely untapped or underutilized?
So I want to answer with a really short video I made, which is now like what also we are training people in the AI Finance Club, is to create agents and workflows. Like it's, like the barrier is really close. So here's an example of, the data that I prepared before with Google Script. Now that I have it, we talked about categorizing. And if you want, like if you like to use agents by yourself, you can do something like this. So it's more like for really small teams who like to also make their hand dirty. But you have here a tool which will take the transactions, so the credit card statements, and that's the thing. You can make also like any other financial task which today are really manual. You can also here build your own agent for other type of tasks. And here, basically, I'm using this to categorize these expenses. And you can see that I'm just sending a prompt. So that's also why you could start. It's something simple. You have also the risk that is not as elaborated as a tool that is specialized like this, like Nilus, where you have a full team behind that knows exactly how to categorize this. But on your own, you can start with this to have a touch of how you can use AI to create an agent. And this here, in this tool, we are going after to send both the transactions, the categories, and the prompt into OpenAI, and we are going to save it into Google Sheet. And now you can see that I'm going to run it. And this, once it takes all of the data, it will after create the categorization. And the categorization here, when I open my Google Sheet. So I open here to see the results. And once I have the result, I can see them also in the Google Sheet. And now in this Google Sheet, we have the column E and F, which was done by AI. So the categorization of expense category, but also the location. So that's something you need to learn it a bit. That's what we do also in the AI Finance Club. But it's something quite cool. Like I have also an agent, for example, which is just categorizing my emails. So nothing to do with finance, but it's like a productivity also saver. And yeah, this is like starting your own automations alone for yourself or for a really small team.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. So we are right at the end of our journey. I think this has been a really exciting conversation. Before we start answering Q&A, I just want to extend a special thank you to all of our panelists and our hosts, as well as you for attending the webinar. I think we've learned a lot today on how AI can be utilized, but also where it's going. It's truly an enlightening session. We'll be sending the recording of the meeting to your inbox so you can watch it at any point in time. Also, I want to remind people that if you want to find out more about Nilus or how AI is being implemented into finance companies, you can scan the QR code that's going to be coming on the screen shortly to book a meeting or visit nilus.com. Which is here. We're going to be transitioning to a couple of Q&As. The first question, and we'll just kind of leave it, Daniel, to you and Nicolas to answer as you see fit. Can we review the cash collection forecast by client? Similarly, can we do the same for cash outflows with suppliers? So
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, absolutely. So the ability to tag transaction, which is by client, then also to kind of understand the nuance of a client as, you know, versus your GL and see the trend is definitely something we support at Nilus with our software. You can probably also do that with your Excel, but it would take you more time and would be more challenging to support and have a more kind of clean pattern on an ongoing basis, on a daily basis. So we can support it, and I'm happy to walk you through it in detail in a demo in a later meeting. Yeah.
Got it. Great. And this question is also live as well. How do you ensure that Treasury data remains private and not leaked through Gen AI that's being used?
That's part of the security protocols. Everything is encrypted. Everything is siloed. There's a specific instance for the company. And everything is kind of run with the best protocols to save the data. This is what we do for a living, and we support some of the best kind of public companies out there. So we'll be happy to go around that with more detail, but I think that this was addressed earlier in the webinar.
Great. Maybe a question for you, Nicolas. If my finance or leadership team are not math or stat wizards, how do I convince them that AI is trustworthy, meaning it's not a total black box?
So that's a good question. LLMs, especially so generative AI and LLMs, are actually probabilistic model. So they don't calculate, they give you the most probable answer, meaning actually you should not trust them to calculate. What you should do, however, is trust them to prepare the analysis with the right formulas, the right method. And for this, what you do is you ask to show you the step-by-step analysis. And also what I showed you, for example, when there was the charts that I showed in ChatGPT, you can audit the code that was used to create those charts. So if you have the data, the input, and if you have the formula, then you can audit and you know if the output is good. The same way, then if you have an intern and you give to the intern the task of generating the cash inflows and outflows graph for the last 12 months, you might just get like a picture. And if you are the manager, you will not trust only the picture. You will want to see the working files. You will want to check if the right data is used, if the right formula is used. And you can do the same with AI by asking, show me how you did it, and then help me audit your work. And by doing that, you will act as a manager, but now it's not your intern doing the work, it's your AI assistant. And that's really the same way that you work with humans, you will work with AI. And there is like, don't trust it, just audit it, coach it, instruct it.
Love it. Love it. No, it's great insight. I have a three-part question next. This one is for Daniel. So the first part of that three-part question is, can Nilus integrate with ERPs like SAP? The second part of the question is, what does implementation look like? And then the third part of the question is, do we work with non-US banks like Israeli banks, and how do we connect into them?
Yeah, so definitely. First of all, maybe integration. We integrate with any ERP, SAP, Oracle, NetSuite, Dynamics, Sage, really wide ability to kind of bring your data. This is a big part of Nilus, and Why working with a Treasury platform is because you want a consistent view and streamline data from your banks, payment gateways, and your ERP or other adjacent systems, which Nilus can help you do, and clean the data, validate that it streamlines correctly to the system. I think that the second question was how integration or implementation, I'm sorry, works. With AI, unlike other financial systems that you may have integrated in the past, implementation becomes dramatically easier, faster, and more accurate. So from getting bank data, we can get bank data connected with our agents in a matter of days, up to weeks at max. But it's dramatically different than kind of waiting for a few months to get a bank data. In most use cases, in a day or two, you can bring your bank data or ERP data. Then Nilus agents help you categorize transactions. So again, pretty fast, maybe 1 hour or two to make sure that you review that and say, hey, this works for me. The next thing is helping you generate your forecast. So instead of in legacy systems, you would need to create every single rule yourself, every single kind of tag. AI can do this for you and dramatically improve time to value, which is what is done today. The last question was about banks, and part of Nilus's kind of global connectivity, whether you're in Asia, South America, Europe, South Africa, everything could be connected to the system.
That's great. It's awesome. We have 1 minute left, so I have a bonus question for both of you. So I'd like both of you to answer. Name one thing that you're most excited about around this iteration of future AI within finance, and one thing that keeps you up at night. So we'll start with Nikolai, and then we'll end with Daniel. You're on mute, Nikolai.
What I see the most excited is every time I do this type of webinar, I can see that most of the people get more and more knowledgeable. More and more people get access to those LM chatbots. More and more people want also to implement specific AI finance tools. And so the demand is growing. And I think the supply, so when we talk today, like how, for example, Nilus is developing also AI inside the tool, I think really soon we'll have what finance people want is both the users and the solutions, like having more and more value and use cases, which was like 1 year ago was really hard to see real use cases in action besides like productivity. But now we'll have more and more processes. And what's keep me up at night is everybody who is not in this call. Everybody who actually decided to not come because they don't think it's important. And everybody who decided to come, all of us and us as well as speakers, we have the duty to bring them with us, because it's not only the first movers and the people who understand how it works that are going to change things. We need to bring the others with us. And for this, like educating through webinar, but also if you participated in this webinar, you need also to share back the knowledge you had and all of the, I will say like the quick wins that we showed you, implement that also with your team.
Totally. Very astute points. Daniel, we're kicking it off to you.
I'm just excited. I'm not worried about anything. No, I'm joking. I'm really excited about kind of AI. I think it's an inflection point where finally teams and people are like, there's enough people who are using for their day-to-day activity AI. And once this happens, I just saw that Sam Altman posted on Twitter today that just in the last hour, 1 million people were added to ChatGPT. Once this happens, the evolution from there is dramatically accelerated, and that's what we're seeing now. There's a very clear understanding of how AI should be used. And I think that what maybe keeps me up at night is the technology kind of is developed so fast. Making sure that we as at Nilus and you guys, when you are implementing the right software that will be with you and adapt with the new change and rapid pace of technology. I think that's one of the most important items.
Awesome. Love it. Well, I just want to extend a thanks again to all of the audience, as well as our panelists. Just as a reminder, the recording will be sent out tomorrow, so no need to kind of think or remember what you heard today. You'll be able to recall it. But I'll also encourage engagement. We did share a couple of QR codes on the slide earlier where you can reach out to myself or Daniel, or you can reach out to Nikolai via LinkedIn within the Finance Club. But I would encourage you to reach out. I think the conversation from here needs to be continued. And so wishing you well on your AI finance journey, and thank you for joining.
Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.